In this session we are going to study about the distributed databases. Okay, so before I begin telling you about what is a distributed database, let's first understand what is a distributed computing system. Okay, distributed computing system. So distributed computing system is a collection of processing elements, okay, which are interconnected by a network, and they together coordinate to perform a specific task. So I say, let's suppose this is my network. Okay, let me just write it as network. So my distributing computing system is a collection of processing elements. Okay, so these are my processing elements. Okay, and these processing elements are These processing elements are normally heterogeneous. Okay, I would just write heterogeneous processing elements. Okay, so let me just call it as P1, P2, P3 and so on. Okay, oftentimes if it is a homogeneous system, then probably it is going to be a parallel computing system. Okay, the distinction between a parallel and a distributed computing system is that more often than not, in a distributed processing system we have heterogeneous processing elements. Okay, and these processing elements coordinate to perform a common task. So that is the concept of a distributed computing system. Okay, now let's see what is a distributed database. Okay, I would just write over here distributed database. A distributed database is a collection of logically related databases, okay, distributed over a network. Okay, distributed over a network. So we have a distributed computing system. Okay, but the thing is, along with the processing elements, I also have a database over here. Okay, so this is my database which is connected to my processing element. Okay, so this is what I call a distributed database system. Okay, let's just call it as DB2, DB3 and DB1. Okay, what I'm saying is it is a logically related collection of databases. Hence, all these databases are related in some manner. Only then I can call it as a distributed database. Okay, and this is what? This is my network. Distributed over a network, right? So this is a distributed database, and hence from this definition we can arrive at the definition of a distributed database management system. Okay, distributed database management system. What is this? It is a system that manages a distributed database. Okay, system managing a distributed database and making this distribution transparent. So it makes the distribution transparent. What is the meaning of this phrase, making a distribution transparent? It means that, let's suppose here I have a person, okay, and he makes a query by saying that my distributed database management system makes the distribution transparent. Then it means that this guy can make a query without being aware that my database is distributed. Okay, so I can make a query as if there is a centralized database. Okay, I am totally not aware that where my tables lie. There may be some tables at this particular location, there may be some other tables at this particular location that I have to reference for my query. All this is managed by the distributed database management system. Okay, the user is totally unaware as to what is happening behind the scenes. Okay, so let's suppose I have here departments table. Okay, this database, or let's do it as like this DB contains the department table. Okay, and this DB, let's suppose, contains the employee table. Okay, and here I make a query, find employees working in research. Okay, so my user actually doesn't know that employee table is not at this particular location, although user is at P1 but employee table is at P3. Okay, so my distributed database system is going to convert this query into two sub queries, where first I am going to fetch tuples from department table, then I am going to fetch tuples from employee table, and I'll take a join probably at this site. Okay, and I'll return the result to my user. All this is done so as to make the distribution transparent. Okay, now let's look at what are the advantages that my distributed database provides. Okay, advantages of distributed databases. Okay, I'll write it as DDB. Okay, my first advantage is that it provides transparency. Okay, we've already seen what is the concept of transparency when I talked about making the distribution transparent. Okay, let's understand what are the different notions of transparency that we have. Okay, first we have network transparency. We've already talked about what this is, right? It is making the distribution transparent across the network. Okay, there are two facets to network transparency. One is location transparency. Okay, that's about you do not have to care about where your relation or part of the database is located. Okay, you are here at P1 and you are making a query that accesses databases from site P1 and from site P3 also. So you do not care about where databases or elements of databases are located. That's about location transparency. You can execute any command from anywhere, okay? You can execute any query from anywhere using the same command, okay? That's about location transparency. I'll write it as any query from anywhere using same command, okay? That's the concept of my location transparency. And the next facet within my network transparency is the concept of naming transparency. Okay. Naming transparency indicates that once I have given a name to that object, okay, once I have referred to a particular object, my system is easily able to distinguish that object from amongst various objects and is able to access that object. Okay, so it is about unambiguous accesses, okay, unambiguous accesses once name has been specified, okay. Just like if you type amazon.com, right, you really don't have to worry about where the server is located. The system is going to unambiguously take you to the server where amazon.com is hosted, okay. So that is the concept of naming transparency, right? Now the next transparency that we have over here is, I would just extend the line, okay, so that I maintain the order. Okay, so the next transparency is replication transparency. Okay, my replication transparency is about maintaining the replication without user knowing anything about it, okay. So let's suppose I have an employee table and that employee table is replicated across two sites, okay. It is also present at site 1 and the copy is also present at site 2. The concept of replication is, if I make some modification in employee table at site 1, the same changes are reflected to site 2, okay. So this reflection is taken care of by the system, okay. User must not worry about it, okay. He shouldn't even know that employee table is replicated, okay. So that is the concept of my replication transparency, okay. So I'll just copy this, okay, and move it over here so that when you refer this back, you understand what is my replication transparency, okay. Just understand the difference between replication and duplication. Replication, all the copies have to agree to each other, okay. In duplication, it might not be true, right? I would say employee table is replicated at site 1 and site 2, okay. and then changes in site 1 is reflected on site 2. Similarly, changes in site 2 is reflected on site 1. That was the concept of replication transparency. Next type of transparency is fragmentation transparency. Okay, fragmentation transparency. The concept in fragmentation transparency is